The Warehouse is open. Tales from the Warehouse Volume 51, the Stadium Series, and Around the National Hockey League. Joined by Patrick Midney, man of many, many hats in the MeiGray world. And now, by the way, congrats, Mr. Midney. He's the new program director for the Columbus Blue Jackets. Bravo, sir. Well done.
Thank you.
Good to see you. Good to have you back aboard. Couple things on the calendar, by the way. We're still in March. Yes, there will be craziness on the college basketball landscape, but so many people are down and in with the NBA, with the playoffs quickly approaching. Did you know, over at MeiGrayAuctions.com, it's the Lakers Statement Edition auction. Luka Doncic Revenge Game, the first jersey auctioned off by MeiGray, available now. The auction itself ends March the 27th. It's LeBron, it's Luka, it's Jared Vanderbilt, it's Dalton Connect, it's Austin Reeves, and much, much more. They used it against the Dallas Mavericks, and then they wore it for additionally in a chunk against the Denver Nuggets, I believe. And Luka went off. He had the triple-double. Jersey's available. It is absolutely stunning. Again, check that out over at MeiGray Auctions. And also, something near and dear to Patrick's heart, and we'll talk about this in a second, it's the Blue Jackets Stadium Series auction. Photo shoot jerseys, gloves, sticks, pants, helmets, practice jerseys. This one ends on March the 25th. More intel to come. Patrick, you were at the Horseshoe for Ohio State, at the stadium, at Buckeye Stadium. Columbus did a whale of a job by everything I saw on television. How was the event? Blue Jackets, Red Wings, you were live on the scene, sir.
It was fun. It was, the second largest ever outdoor game. So there's a lot of people. It was funny to me because I had never been to Ohio before. So everyone that, I work with has been to Michigan, Ohio State, but it was my first time. So I finally got to see that.
What'd you think? And by the way, so I've been to Columbus once. It was when my daughter was touring for colleges to look for. And this is something that sort of blew me away, but I was pleasantly surprised. Ohio State's a great campus. It's a party. The stadium's right there, and the Shot and Scene Center's not too far, like literally not too far away. And there's great buildings, and there's, North Short, I think, is the party area. Someone will have to Google that and correct me. By all means, email away. Anyway, Columbus is a wonderful campus town, but it's also, Patrick, the 13th largest city in the United States. So it's like a massive school of 60 some odd thousand people, and it's attached to top 15 in population. It's, people often think of, when you go to Penn State, you go to Happy Valley, you're in the middle of nowhere, lots of hills, and the highways will lead you there, and it's a big stadium. And it may be the case, like I've been to Bloomington on a college tour, gorgeous campus, as pretty as you will see. Bloomington is 40 some odd minutes away from Indianapolis, but it's not attached to a big city. This is a big campus and a big city. Well, even before the game, what was the atmosphere like?
It was interesting seeing the area. Practice day beforehand, I really got a good idea of how the layout worked because we were trying to park the car to get, close to the locker room, and it's very difficult even on the non-game day. But we did drive around looking and scouting it out, saw like the whole restaurant and bar area right down the road from the stadium. We tried to get to Michigan, Ohio State hockey that night because it's right there too.
Yes.
We didn't make it, but everything's right there. And I'm shocked for such a big school that it's there and it's in such close proximity to downtown. It was only like 10 or so minutes from Nationwide. So
yeah, that's something that I remember. It's like you get on the highway, you're like, oh, there are the buildings that you've seen on so many hero shots during so many hockey games. But yes, big campus, big city, and a lot bigger than you would expect. This is not your first live event. How did this, we'll talk about the authentication behind the scenes stuff, but how did this one feel and stack up like the other ones you've been present for?
So I've gone to a lot for work. I've gone to a lot as a fan, different kinds of stadiums, size stadiums. This one was, like I said, it was a lot more people.
Right.
So, it was interesting because navigating through the stadium and all the people in lines and everything like that when I'm trying to go, the locker room to out towards watching the ice. And, it's just, it's familiar, but it's just a larger scale than the other ones. Cause I was with, MeiGray, I believe it was 2 years ago, down at NC State
Mm-hmm.
for
For the Caps and the
Capitals.
Canes at Carter Finley, exactly.
And that was much smaller, seemingly.
Right.
But yeah, so it was very different.
Did the crowd, did the atmosphere present a bit of a challenge because there were so many people?
It was just, it was, I think, just the walkways everywhere, just trying to get around. Obviously, the parking was a huge, huge issue around there because the lots right outside the stadium are so small for employees to have all that. So you're at the mercy of the police shutting down the 3-block radius and nobody being able to get in. And that was more of a struggle than I think in the stadium once everybody was in their seats. But
by the way, so when you got there, obviously you always get to these events early just to get the lay of the land, and parking is a challenge, no doubt. Did you happen to give yourself or get a guided or self-guided tour around the stadium? Because at one end, it's all glass and it's a gym. And someone told me that you like to lift. I don't know. I'm working to confirm that story. But I remember when we went on the tour with our daughter, dude, I was blown away. They're like, and here's where the football team works out. And it's like one side of the stadium and you look down and you can see several floors down. It's as you would figure, it's a beautiful Big Ten, big time school facility. I didn't know if you got a glimpse of the gym, Patrick.
I actually didn't. We were so busy. It's funny because I had talked to some security guards near the locker room during the game, and I was talking all about the stadium, and they were going off about that stuff. And it was funny because, I had heard initially that maybe the locker rooms or the innards of the stadium, I'm not sure what people would always talk about, but they would always say it's a little bit older looking than, a lot of these schools that just pump into the rooms and everything is just crazy looking, like it's, an NHL stadium, but in college. But there was a lot there. Like, it was an older vibe, especially the entrance, but
very cool nonetheless.
Yeah, it was special.
Yeah, I'm sure they all are special in the NHL, and God bless the stadium and campus landscape for welcoming and partnering. They all, and even when they're at baseball stadiums or they're at a naval academy, I mean, everybody does a great job of making it a national stage and worthy of a national stage. I was actually home at the time and I turned on, because I'm like, I want to see the walk-ins, I want to see the intros and what have you. And the Alabama-Tennessee basketball game was running long. And it was like a miracle ending too, because this thing was on ESPN at the time. And then finally they did get over to the proper coverage and whatnot. And the sweaters, we'll talk more about them in a little bit, by the way. The photo shoot, the pants, the helmets, the practice jerseys, gloves and sticks from that very memorable game between Columbus and Detroit. Available now, the Blue Jacket Stadium Series auction, ongoing, ending March 25th at MeiGrayAuctions.com. So you've worked events for MeiGray in the past. Take us through what it's like to authenticate live. It is literally like a hockey game, and you're doing line change worthy rapid fire stuff, Patrick.
Yeah. So, do you want me to start with, the initial authentication, like practice day, or do you want just game day?
No, take me through the whole thing, because it's a process. But you've also been part of a couple of different venues, and that time is of the essence, but integrity is of the essence too.
So I would say this one was a lot easier and I would say the same about when I did the Washington and NC State. The college football stadiums are easier access to everything because it's a smaller, like the locker room's right down the tunnel and you go right out to the rink. Mm-hmm. Whereas like when I was in Seattle last year for the Winter Classic, that one's, the locker room's like tunnels and you're going through all this, and it's just a different layout. So the football stadiums seem to be easier for it, just getting around.
Sure.
So you get there day before on practice day. You want to be there a few hours before any players start coming in. So, you'll communicate that with the contacts and get there on time. Then you just start going, stickering the helmets, making sure the holograms are in there. We're sitting there and marking up the gloves. So, we put a dot in the gloves to make sure, they're going to wear them. We get them back. And if guys have two, put 2 dots in it so we can differentiate the pairs. Everything's getting logged in spreadsheets so we know what we have when we're done. Practice jerseys, that day they're going to practice and do the photo shoot. So we're making sure that, our player numbers are in the necks of those jerseys, because if not, it's going to be real hard to figure out who's wearing it.
Mm-hmm.
And then, we check the tags on the sets. So, we get the photo shoot set. And so we'll go into the room where all the jerseys are, confirm all our numbers. And we do have our tags in the other sets as well. So we just go over everything to make sure everything's proper. And then, you kind of just wait till practice. And, there's a little bit of a difficulty. I wouldn't say difficulty, but for someone that hasn't done a few of them, it's kind of rapid fire. You're watching the guys come out for the photo shoot. You're seeing, who's dressing for it that might not be playing. So once that's done, they throw on the practice jerseys and, collect the photo shoot jerseys. And then you got to log who's wearing what color practice jersey, right? And a lot of guys switch halfway through. So, the list will sit there and you'll have the roster and you'll say, Kent Johnson started in blue but switched to white. You do that for all the guys you can, take videos of them walking out, makes it a lot easier.
Mm-hmm.
And that's, virtually it. And that's most of the authentication until, we're receiving the items. Game day, it's more waiting around to do the final grab and double check and all that. So
what happens at the end of the practices? Let's say Johnson wears a blue and then switches to a green. The trainers, the equipment guys, equipment staff is then handing them to you, and they go right on a rack, and you're putting, and again, sort of take us through as much as the sausage making as you can. You're then putting a band on the hanger and going, this was Johnson part, 20 minutes of the practice. This was him in the last 40 minutes of the practice. These two sweaters are what he wore during, and it's kind of similar where, you're not taking them from the players, but you're getting them from the equipment staff. And also, what's most important in a time like this, you're there to report on the story, but never be part of the story. We are out of the way as the MeiGray staff goes.
As you said, out of the way. So, a lot of it, once we're done taking our, notes from the practice, it's just get out of the player's way, let them get undressed. And a lot of it falls on the equipment staff who are great. They sit there and they grab the jerseys, bring them right to us. So we don't have to wait around too long to see everything. And on practice day, you'll have like the oddities of the guys who just took photo shoot, if you're grabbing their gear, because say, like, for example, this one, they were bringing Sean Monahan's photo shoot gear back to Nationwide if we weren't taking it. So, you get that stuff the day before, you log it, and, it's one less item you take the next day, but, it's really easy. The equipment managers do a good job.
Yeah, and again, is there a lot of communication between yourselves, between the MeiGray family and the equipment manager, or it's, okay, hey, Patrick, come here, buddy, we got your stuff, and then they leave it on the table, you're like, okay, we're good to go, bye. Or is there more of, hey, listen, want to talk to you for a couple seconds, we noted this, I want to make sure it's okay with, I want to make sure it's up to speed with your notations as well.
Yeah, I mean, we're constantly communicating on practice day. When we initially get there, once we're done with our authentication, we usually have a breakdown conversation of, what we're getting, what procedures you want us to follow tomorrow, especially, because that's even more staying out of your way. And, any questions that you have, it's very cut and dry. They answer them really well, and they know what they're doing, and just makes it really easy when everybody's just like a well-oiled machine,
So, and again, you have to be a well-oiled machine. You teased what happens on game day, and it's more frenetic, but it's organized in its frantic nature because you want it to be like a well-oiled machine. You're there doing sticks and pants and helmets and gloves and everything that, there's a lot of stuff that perhaps was duplicated. Maybe the guy that used his stuff in practice on Friday, also he started off with that stick in the game on Saturday evening, and you're making notes, and you're, tell me about what it's like to do game day, because it's got to be an absolute blast, but it's also lots of juggling.
Yeah. So game day, the biggest thing is, not only when the day before when you're looking at who's practicing and taking the photo shoot, then you're realizing who's warming up, right? You have to take a note who comes out to warm up, and then who's not in the lineup, who's the scratches, because it all matters. It all goes towards the authentication process. Once you do that, you kind of just get to hang around if you get a good view of the festivities, For me, personally, Ohio is pretty cold, so, I watched a little bit, And then I was in the locker room with all the guys that weren't playing, watching on the TV while they smacked a bunch of pizza. So it was, nice and warm in there. But, once the game's getting to the end, you're really going to want to watch for the stick situation, because I know there's been, I remember a few years back in Boston, some of the top guys are throwing their sticks into the crowd. And, we try to get it set up so that everybody, right off the ice, everything's good. And then we can start getting out of the way and doing whatever we can to get our work done in the locker room, which is getting ready to grab all the gear we couldn't take after practice. So your pants, your helmets, it's every team we have, it's different parameters, I'd say, with the contracts.
Mm-hmm.
So for example, for Columbus, instead of getting the full set of photo shoot, we got 15. So, we have to sit there and, I'm going over the list. I was with Casey and we were, just sitting, okay, we're getting this guy, making sure we get what we planned out. And, all the work the day before when we did all that, it's so simplified once the game's over, because the equipment guys are just bringing us everything, or saying, hey, go to the lockers, grab what you need. And then we can really just check the list and keep going.
It's Tales from the Warehouse, Volume 51, talking Stadium Series, jackets, wings, the jackets, just tons of memorabilia available on MeiGray Auctions. The Stadium Series auction for Columbus ongoing. Photo shoot jerseys, gloves, sticks, pants, helmets, practice jerseys as well. We're joined by Patrick Midney, man of lots of jobs in the MeiGray family, and now he's the new program director for the Columbus Blue Jackets. So if you've got Fantilli or Werenski on the brain, make sure it's on the keyboard. Email Patrick at pmidney@meigray.com, right? Yeah, P. Midney. I believe that to be there you go. Mm-hmm. So reach out to Patrick. Good guy, knows his stuff, and now he's leading the Columbus Blue Jackets program for MeiGray. You mentioned before you went into the locker room, because it's cold and you were with the dudes snacking on pizza, where are you set up outside? Do you have a prime Eagles nest spot? Are you, like, if I go back and rewatch the game, am I going to go, there's Patrick, there's Patrick, there's Patrick?
Yeah, so I mean, it really depends on the views in the venue. Some cases, like NC State, it was right in the tunnel where they come out. Whereas in Ohio State, the way that the view from there is just not the best. So for the important things, like the walkouts for warm-ups, one of us will sit there and watch them come right out of the locker room, try to get every guy. And the other one will take a view kind of around midfield so that you can see the bench during warm-ups, mm-hmm. who's doing what. And then, then we have the 2 vantage points and 2 different perspectives on the video in case someone misses something. And that's, typically where we'll stand during the game as well. So
when you were in, and we'll get to inside the locker room in a second, by the way, so it was colder there. It will be much warmer on July 13th, but the air conditioning will be on. It's MeiGray Expo time. July 13th, circle your calendars, save the date, Raritan Community College there in New Jersey, info to come, but it's always, we've said this and we'll continue to say it, it's always the best time for sweaters and connection with those in the hobby, and there will be amazing displays from all over the world because collectors come in for this one like few others. The support through the years has been great, and Barry and friends and family, the MeiGray family, always put on an amazing, amazing show. So hope to see you there July 13th at Raritan Community College. All right, so you're in there. Are you eating pizza? Or because you're doing sweaters, you were told to stay? Or are you staying, like, they're like, hey, Patrick, if you want a piece, go ahead, bro. And you're like, actually, I'm doing jerseys and stuff, so I'm not getting anything on my hands. Anybody BSing with you in the locker room?
It's funny, we'll, sit there, and if guys want to talk, they'll talk,
Right, you're not engaging.
None of us go out of our way to ever do anything like that, but guys will sit there and ask you questions and stuff like that. So, whereas the pizza comes in, I know to stay away from that. Everybody's always funny because you'll have equipment staff guys that'll be like, oh, you want some of this? Take this, take this. And then it's like, oh, okay, I'll take that. But never just reaching out because Sean Monahan's eating a piece of pizza and said, I'm going to eat a piece of pizza too.
Any funny stories from this time in Columbus, either on the ice or off the ice? Hey, we got done. It was a great night. It's a college town. Yeah, we got to experience a little bit of the nightlife. Talk to me.
I just, we got out late. So typically we'll be out of there probably like between like 12 and 1, I'd say. This was an hour earlier game, so it wasn't as bad. But after this game, and it was like nothing I've ever seen before. When in any of the events I've worked, media usually goes into the locker room right after the game. They'll do their interviews, but at the same time media was going in, the families were coming in. So this locker room was flooded, and we're talking, I think it was Matthew Olivier had his, it seemed like his entire family. It was like 40 people just for him, all wearing his old jerseys, old gamers from other teams. So it was swamped in there, and everything was going slow because nobody could move. I figure there's probably like 200 people in there. Potentially more at some points because it's a big locker room. So we didn't really do much after. We were just concerned with, getting some food and getting everything to the hotel and all that, so everything was safe. But I think there was a funny story that I had, and Casey could attest to it, is I was just walking out towards the benches and, down the tunnel. It's a looping tunnel there. And there's Mikkel Pitia, who, it was weird before that game because Cole Sillinger got injured the Thursday before and ended up, Pitia ended up dressing. But I'm sitting walking out and I almost got barreled over, and I look and it was him. It was hilarious. And I just thought it was funny because I almost got completely taken out down that ramp. But yeah, I'd say that was the funny one.
A lot of people, and you should be. These are very, very, very sharp sweaters. From the photo shoot to the game to the gear, the oversized cannon with the oversized numbers with the 13 Johnny patch. They're and the thick gray sort of chevron shape on the sleeves themselves, like a bluish gray. I mean, just really, really nice. What were your thoughts on the look for the Stadium Series from Columbus?
I mean, I love the jerseys. I think they're probably my favorite Columbus jerseys they've had. I'm used to what they've got now. I really used to love the ones with Stinger, but when they first started on the shoulder patch. But these are just such a modern look, I think, because they've been in their current style for, probably since around, what was it, like 07 or so when they started doing those jerseys and getting away from the horizontal hems. I don't remember exactly. Don't quote me on the year, but it's been a long time in that style jersey. And it was interesting because they have the third cannon, but it's more of, I always say it looks like a soccer club logo because it's surrounded in the circle and it says Columbus Blue Jackets. So this one was just the oversized logo with the patch, and then the shoulder patch itself was really cool too with the CBJ and the sticks.
Yes.
So I thought there was just a lot there on top of the fact that the silver was just hopping like crazy.
It's a really, it's sort of one of those things where I saw it when it first came out and I'm like, yeah, they're nice. And then when I saw them on screen and when I saw them on MeiGrayAuctions.com, it's magnified. My adoration for the product I'm like, those are really, really well done. Did you have, Patrick, of all of the Stadium Series matchups, and there's a lot to pick from, is there a favorite jersey or jerseys?
The Islander guy in me would say, oh, the Islanders back, when they played at Yankee Stadium. But to me, I like the classics kind of guy.
Okay.
And so the one I think about the most is probably Chicago in 2014, the black jerseys. Because back in, I think it was like late 90s, early 2000s, because they wore the black style alts with Nike on them. But those are probably my favorite of all time. I'm not usually into the modern designs.
Sure.
Like I liked Washington. The Columbus one I really love. I want one of those jerseys, but
and I know where you can get them. Stadium Series auction ongoing at MeiGrayAuctions.com. Ding, Jenner, Monahan, Olivier, Tarasov, Elvis. It's Elvis can leave your building. Sorry. But yeah, the photo shoot jerseys are available now. Auction ends March 25th. But they're, and we've talked about this through the years. The Stadium Series lends itself more to fun and creativity. And sometimes they get a little over the top and people are like, not so much. But Columbus is really, it may be one of my top 4 or 5 of all time of the Stadium Series sweaters.
Yeah, that's a good one.
It's very, very cool. We teased the auction a bunch of times. You're now in charge of the Columbus Blue Jackets program, directing the program. If people are interested, what should they be looking for as far as, awesome stuff. Not just the photo shoot sweaters, but there's helmets, there's gloves, and there's sticks, and there's pants. If you're a collector and you're like, I'd like to pay attention to, talk to me.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to sit there and say, oh, blanket, everything is cool, but I mean, it is.
It is, of course.
Even the pants, I mean, down to the pants, they got the side piping, but they got the big star on one of the legs, and it just works so well with everything else. I mean, the helmets are insane too, with the big stickers on the side.
Yes.
So and even the practice jerseys, they put the shoulder patch for the stadium series right on the practice jerseys as well. So everything just, I mean, you can't go wrong with anything, whether you want to sit there and bid war for Boone Jenner's captain jersey, because the other thing that I don't think we talked about was the A's and the C being the Ohio State shape.
Love it. What a touch. What a
Yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah, very, very cool. And again, available. Auction will end on March the 25th. Pick a player. There's a lot of stuff available. Real quick, just a few minutes left. Tales from the Warehouse, Volume 51, talking to our man Patrick Midney, now director of the program for the Columbus Blue Jackets. NHL trade deadline was, as we record this, a few days ago. A lot of teams made moves. Some made little moves. I mean, here in Washington, we got former Islander Anthony Beauvillier from the Pittsburgh Penguins, and people in D.C. were like, no knock against him, but was that really necessary? He seems like he could, and again, his possession numbers are what people want to focus on, and that's certainly appreciated. But others are like, did they have to do that? And again, other teams, I mean, we were all surprised as the deadline came up, Patrick, and you've been known to spend a little bit of time in Florida, when the Panthers go out and they get Brad Marchand, pick your pronunciation. I'm still trying to wrap my head around it, but I also remember that this was the organization who told Raymond Bourque, look, you want to go? We got you. Here's your ticket to Colorado. And it worked out pretty well for him. So this is an organization. I'm sure there are a lot of angry Bees fans, and I'm talking way too much about this. Who got better? Who got worse?
Well, first, I just actually got back from Florida yesterday. I went down there, and I was excited when it happened. Then I realized he got injured like a week before.
He's week to week as we record this. Yes, correct.
Yeah, he would have been playing the night after the announcement. I would have been there, so it would have been cool. But I mean, that one had to be my number one in the league. That not just being a Panther guy. I mean, that's just Bruins captain. I mean, that's crazy to think about.
Yeah.
I think one of them that stood out to me was Lawton from the Flyers. They got a first for it, so that could be, really good. And then I think most of the teams, at least MeiGray teams that I'm thinking about it, decent role filling guys. Like the Devils made a few. Mm-hmm. Jack Hughes is injured now and all that.
Right. Cody Glass for his New Jersey debut. So sure.
Yeah, they got a few guys, re-signed guys, and Washington, Beauvillier. I love Beauvillier. I thought Washington could have used a big grindy D-man to go into the playoffs. That was what I was expecting, but we'll see. He fits in there well. He's a good playoff player.
As far as, and again, maybe this changed your answer, but Colorado picking up Brock. I mean, I'm sure that, again, being an Islanders guy at heart, that probably stung a little bit, although it was probably also expected. Who was your season opening pick? And after the deadline, are you like, actually, Dallas is crazy now with Rantanen, or Colorado's crazy now because they added some other people? It's an arms race between those two.
So first, the Brock Nelson thing, that one really did sting me. Everybody's getting on me. It was my first day at work there. Everybody's been on me saying, oh, we want to talk to you. Because, I mean, that's my guy. I mean, that's the one player I collect more than any player, so that one hurt. But I think, like you said, it's going to help Colorado a lot. I think he already grabbed a point his first game. And they made a few, because I can't remember who else they got, but they made a few moves too. And I think it's them, Winnipeg in the West, and always Dallas, know. And you got Edmonton too, but I think, getting Rantanen in Dallas and, at least Nelson, I mean, was it for Middlestat?
Yes.
Okay. Middlestat left. He didn't go to the Islanders, but
he went to I'll be all right. But yes, yes. It's just,
Yeah,
it was about
I
a
mean,
bunch of pages, but yes.
yeah, I mean, you got top line centers coming in that, I mean, automatically making a difference. And then, I think the Panthers in the East, I mean, I've thought that all year long, but it's different in the East this year because the Metro is usually so competitive.
Mm-hmm.
And then you got Washington up here, and then
Washington
everybody
run
else
away
is
with
kind
it,
of
right.
fighting.
Yeah, and then the other big deal was Buffalo and Ottawa, and you saw an emotional Brady Tkachuk talk about, was it Norris for Dylan? Like, you're like, it's for those guys that is hard to get your head around. Two young players, two talented players. The search for consistency is something that all hockey fans and hockey coaches want out of their young stud players. They also want good and prolonged health too. But it was another very, very big deal. Although it's they'll help their team. They'll help their teams almost right away, but it's like, can you get them to the next level? And just seeing the Brady Tkachuk thing was, that's, you realize that these guys always have families, and if they're going from Boston to Florida for a couple of months, they are part of the inner workings. It's like, hey, can we talk to you about something? We're thinking about doing this. Would you be amenable? But then you get it from the other side. It's like, oh, this is my teammate. This is like
anything could happen, though. You know what I mean? Like with those late season deadline pickups, like the Marchands, if they don't extend them, and then Brady Tkachuk, now he's mad because Norris is gone, and he could play with his brother in Florida. So you never know. I mean, it could start a domino effect for different guys. I guess you can see it happen.
Yes. So obviously, you mentioned your affinity for certain players. Are you interested, with the Caps being a MeiGray partner team? Are we going after Beauvillier in a Caps sweater? Any new faces in new places that you're like, I got to get a gamer?
Well, I have to get a Nelson in Colorado just because. And then, I mean, I'm gonna try to get my Florida Marchand, but it might be a little difficult, especially if he doesn't get extended there, because it might only be 2 jerseys.
It'll be a rarity, at best. All right, Patrick, let's promote some stuff. Of course, Patrick, brand new program director for the Columbus Blue Jackets. We're talking to our man Midney, Volume 51, Tales from the Warehouse. Upcoming July 13th, it's the MeiGray Expo. Circle your calendars, make plans to attend. It is an expo like none other at the Raritan Community College. Be there be there. And also ongoing to end on March the 27th, the Lakers Statement Edition auction, big time basketball jerseys. LeBron and Luka, Austin Reeves, Jared Vanderbilt, Rui Hachimura, former Washington Wizard, Bronny et al. Bronny, I believe, for those games was a dressed DNP, but they're absolutely beautiful. And the Luka is on fleek, as the kids would say, because he had a triple-double. It was the revenge game against the Mavs. First jersey to be auctioned off by MeiGray. They are beautiful. MeiGrayAuctions.com. That one ends March the 27th. 2 days prior, maybe you're a Tarasov guy. Maybe you're an Olivier guy, a Monahan, a Jenner, a Fantilli, a Werenski. Photo shoot jerseys, the Blue Jackets Stadium Series auction, gloves, sticks, pants, helmets, practice jerseys. Go to MeiGrayAuctions.com. You will be very, very impressed. All right, overtime. Started doing this a couple episodes ago, Patrick. Just sort of rapid fire stuff. Whatever is on the menu or off the menu. Being that we just changed the clocks over the weekend as we record this, you love the clock change? You hate the clock change? Or is it just a necessary evil? What do you got?
I'm not the biggest fan. I mean, I do like having the alternating, bright morning to dark morning and, light at 8 o'clock. But, like I said, I was in Florida this weekend. I didn't remember that there was the clock change. So I had an early flight. I had to be up at like 6:30 or so. And, packing up a little late after the game. And I only ended up sleeping for like 4 hours, was late returning the car. I got an extra charge. So right now I'm not the biggest fan.
No, I understand. We entertained some dear friends on that Saturday night, and they left late. We loved them dearly, and we wanted them to stay, and they stayed, and everybody Ubered out of here probably at something like 1:45 in the East, maybe 1:15, 1:30. And there were some dishes to be done. I'm not a big fan, and I was wide awake. I was talking to my friends, and it's 4 couples. We've been friends for decades, and I had not seen 3 o'clock in the morning in a long time. So when you're looking down at your Android or your iPhone and it goes to 1:59 on that night, it says 1:59 and then 3 o'clock. Trust me, it's not my largest accomplishment in life, but I saw 3 o'clock. I cheated because I did it then, but it was kind of cool. We've all, and right now you have a very, very cool job. I have a very, very cool job. I also love hanging out with you guys on Tales from the Warehouse. God bless. We've done 51 of these now. But we've had some pretty crappy jobs along the way. Just got me thinking, what was the worst job you've ever had, Patrick?
The worst job I've ever had, I would say, had to be doing door-to-door. I used to do door-to-door lead generation for a window company.
There you go.
That was a bad one. Going out in the winter, getting attacked by dogs, and I could name a bunch of other stuff that happened along the way there.
So we won't name companies because again, these are honest products and everybody needs. I too had to do that, but I did it in the summertime, and it was the summertime of the cicadas down here in Washington, D.C. So I remember it being very hot. Very, very hot. So aside from the bees, and I'm not a fan of bees, there were the cicadas everywhere. And it was a heavily wooded, older neighborhood, and they're flying at me, and they don't bite, they don't sting, they're just nuisance. And they're just all, and they're big. And I mean, I'm batting them down, and I'm knocking on the door. And of course, it's not good for your confidence. You have to be, there are people who are most excellent at these sales gigs. I love talking to people, but you're knocking on the door, and this is a long time ago. So this is people just didn't want to answer the door. And I'm like, hi, I just want to talk to you about, we're in the neighborhood doing some siding or some roofing or something, and I'm trying to generate at least one lead, and I'm sweating to death, and I'm covered in bugs, and I'm not looking all that appealing. I wouldn't open the door for me either. But it helped to pay a couple of bills, like a phone bill. It wasn't great, and I luckily I found something else to do in the long run. So there was that. Anyway, Mr. Midney, I'm glad we got to do this today. Thanks for hanging out. Again, Blue Jacket Stadium Series auction, MeiGrayAuctions.com, ends March the 25th. The Luka Revenge Game, Lakers Statement Edition. The auction ongoing ends March the 27th. And of course, the MeiGray Expo upcoming on July 13th at Raritan Community College. It's been Tales from the Warehouse, Volume 51. Check out Patrick. He's in charge of the Columbus Blue Jackets, among many other things, at MeiGray, MeiGray.com. Thanks for listening. Thanks for hanging out with us. As always, Patrick, it's a pleasure. We'll see you soon. Till next time, Scott, the warehouse is closed.